Grab your notebook and a fun drink because today we're planning Q3 together. I feel like just yesterday we were planning out June and now it's the beginning of July. Not only is it a new month, but it's also a brand new quarter. And my process for planning a quarter is very similar to how I do monthly planning. It's just more zoomed out, bigger picture. So we are going to be reflecting and closing out the previous quarter and then planning for the upcoming quarter ahead. I'm going to walk you through the reflection questions that I journal on, the audit that I run on my businesses and my life, and then we're going to plan out our Q3 goals. And the theme for this quarter is Audacity, and the goals that I set are very reflective of that. And at the very end, I'm going to be sharing 2 new things that I'm trying for Q3 that are just adding a little bit more of an element of fun to this for me. And if you want to follow along step by step, make sure you download the free quarterly planning guide that I have in the description. It contains everything that we're walking through today, so you can follow along, or you can just have it for later on when you do this process. All right, so why quarterly planning? There's a few reasons why I have turned to quarterly planning versus yearly planning. And a lot of this comes from the concepts taught in the book, The 12-Week Year. So with annual planning, there is a lot of time for you to achieve your goals, right? So we have 12 whole months. And oftentimes that can feel like so much time that we start to get complacent, we start to procrastinate. You know, we might think about our goals in February and be like, well, I still have 11 months to achieve this, so I can start on it later, or I can work on it later. You know, 6, 7, 8 months seems like a long time. But when you have 3 months to achieve your goals, you've condensed that timeline so there's more urgency there for you to take action and stick with it. But I think the other piece of this is that we often very much underestimate what we can accomplish in a shorter amount of time. So taking your goals and compressing them into a short timeline gives you that urgency, gives you that momentum. You have a little bit more motivation, and I think that you can really achieve so much more in that time frame than you would be able to if you gave yourself more time. Okay, Parkinson's law is what I was thinking of, and that is that a task will fill the time that we give it. So if you give yourself 2 weeks to complete an essay, for example, it's going to take you 2 weeks. If you give yourself 3 months, it's going to take you 3 months. So by taking a big goal that you have set for maybe the year or maybe 6 months and compressing it down into 3 months, is going to, like I said, put that urgency in there to make you take action so much faster and actually get things done. And I feel like quarterly is really the sweet spot where it's long enough to make real meaningful progress and give yourself the time and space that you need to achieve bigger goals, but it's short enough that you can course correct and pivot if you need to, versus getting to the end of the year and being like, whoa, this is really not the right path, or I need to do something a little bit different, and now you've spent an entire year maybe going off in the wrong direction or on a tangent, and you're not able to course correct as quickly. I think shorter than a quarter, like 1 month, you saw how fast June went by. I mean, I feel like just yesterday was the beginning of March, so 1 month can go by way too fast. So I feel like 3 months is really that sweet spot for you. And yes, I still do have annual goals that I'm working towards, but they are much bigger picture, kind of all-encompassing goals, where my quarterly goals, you'll see when I get to that portion of it, but my quarterly goals are more direct, more impactful, needle-moving type of things that are contributing to that bigger picture goal. All right, so step 1 is to reflect. So we are reflecting on everything that happened in quarter 2, which was April, May, and June. We're looking at all the things that went well, what didn't, what did we achieve, what are our biggest lessons, what do I want to start doing? What do I want to stop doing? What do I want to continue doing? And I also like to think about how I grew throughout the quarter. So as far as achieving the goals that I set for last quarter, I've mentioned this a few times, but this year I have felt a little bit more scattered than I have in the past. I feel like I had a kind of vague sense of the direction that I was going, but I didn't or couldn't quite figure out what my very specific goals were. Like I have a few goals, like running a race every single month this year, for example, but I was still kind of lost and seeking clarity on a lot of things when it comes to the direction I want my business to go in, the things that we're doing in the business I'm a co-founder of, and kind of like where I wanted my life to be. And since I started doing my Dream Life workbook and really getting clear on what I want my life to look like, I have gained so much clarity, and I now have a very clear direction of what I'm trying to accomplish. And again, I will cover this in my goals section. So although I was making progress in my life and in my business, I didn't have any like specific tangible goals that I could point to. Now, some of the things that I'm very proud of for this past quarter are number one, my systems video here on YouTube that did really, really well. I am so grateful and so thankful that so many of you found it useful, and I am so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for watching the video, engaging with it, subscribing to the channel. I'm very, very, very appreciative of that. With Heirloom, the business I'm a co-founder of, we found a lot of clarity in our vision and in our direction, and we launched our first product of the year, and that is doing really well. So very excited for that. And then overall, I've just been really consistent with content, which is something that I have struggled with in the past. I'm also very proud of myself for doing my monthly race. So I've actually done 7 races this year so far. So I did one every month, and then I also did an extra one, I think in June. I ran one with my husband and then one with my mom and my aunt. So that has been so much fun. And I'm excited to just continue finding fun races to do throughout the rest of the year. Side note, if you're anywhere near like Tampa, Central Florida, and you know of a race that has like a really cool medal or is just like really good vibes, let me know, because that's basically all I care about for this goal. Another thing that I like to look at in my review is my habits, my routines, and my systems. What's working with those and what is not, so that I can start to make some changes where necessary. One thing that I have noticed in a habit that I really, really want to stop doing is doom scrolling. And I open my apps with like the best of intentions. I'm like, I'm just gonna look for some content inspiration. You know, I wanna see what's doing well, like what people are enjoying, and then I'm pretty sure you can all relate. Just like find myself 30, 40, sometimes an hour later still scrolling. So it's definitely not productive. It's not helpful. So I'm working on removing that habit from my life. Let me know in the comments if you have any standout accomplishments or goals that you hit in the past quarter. I would love to hear what you guys are doing. Step number 2 is to close out. So we are going through some activities where we are wrapping up things from Q2 so that we have a nice clean slate moving into Q3. And I kind of broke this up into a couple of different categories. So the first category is life, and I'm starting with my wheel of life, which you guys have seen if you watched any of my previous videos. I've shared this before, but I like to do this quarterly and then also anytime before I'm doing like big goal planning sessions. So we're starting out with the wheel of life and reflecting on where we are in how we feel about every area of life versus where we want to be. And this just helps like on a quarter to quarter basis to see the progress of if you are closing that gap between where you are and where you want to be. Is it getting smaller? Is it getting bigger? You know, that gives you some good insight as to if the actions that you're taking on a regular basis, if the goals that you're setting, if the projects that you're working on are helping you to get closer to your dream life, or if they're pulling you further away. And then I just like to kind of think through my personal goals and the things that I want my personal life to reflect and how I did on those things. Next, I'm doing my financial planning. So I like to try to do this on a weekly basis anyway, where I'm updating my financial spreadsheet and seeing how we're doing, you know, tracking with paying off our debt, staying on budget with things, are we growing our income and our wealth, all of that. But on a quarterly basis, I'm looking at this more holistically, bigger picture, again, looking at the big trends over time versus on a week to week basis. And then also looking at some bigger items like net worth, our investment strategies, some of those things that you're not having to look at on a very, you know, week to week basis kind of thing. And then my next section, you can cut this out if it doesn't apply to you, but the next big chunk of stuff is focused on my business. So I'm looking at my business finance tracker, I'm looking through my KPIs, I'm tracking all of my social metrics, estimating my quarterly taxes, which is so fun. I'm evaluating the tools and subscriptions that I have, like are there things that I no longer need to pay for? Can I cut back on some expenses? And then obviously looking through all the things like my content, how it's performing, what are people resonating with, what should I make more content on? Looking at my digital products, my free guides, what are people actually using and enjoying versus like what can I just kind of trim down that is not needed or necessary or useful. Then the big one is the digital declutter. I used to do this at the end of every year, but it became so overwhelmingly big and massive and ugly that I started to not want to do it, and then it just continues to pile up. So pulling this back to a quarterly process, and then having also like on a weekly and monthly basis little things that I do to help maintain it is helping me to have so much more organization digitally, because when you spend a lot of time and you do a lot of your work digitally on your computer, your phone, whatever, you know how fast it can add up. So going through and organizing or deleting everything from your camera roll, your files on your desktop, your Google Drive, your hard drive, any tools that you use like Canva, CapCut, all of that stuff has so many assets in it that, keeping on top of it, making sure that it's cleaned up makes it so much more usable for you. And then the final two steps, this is a new one, but I have started to rearrange my office. So you might notice that my setup is a little bit different from my previous videos, and that's because I rearranged my entire office into a brand new layout. And I really love doing this because number one, I work from home, so I'm like in my office 10 hours a day. So I sometimes just feel like I need fresh new energy. It brings more creativity. It makes it feel like a different space, and I didn't have to go out and like buy new furniture, even though I really, really want to. I would love to replace my desk and like all the white bookcases and stuff with something more, wood, natural, kind of cozy elements, but we're working with what we got so far. So just moving things around made it feel like a brand new space, and I'm excited to be in here again. And then the final thing is just to make sure that I'm archiving the quarter in my Notion template. I'm, taking any screenshots of wins or data or comments or anything like that, and putting them into my quarterly folder. That way I have access to them if I need them. Once everything is done and wrapped up in a beautiful little bow for the previous quarter, we are moving into the planning section, which is so much more fun than checking off a bunch of to-dos, right? So we are starting with a brain dump. This is a step that I have put into every element of my weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual planning. Any type of planning session starts with a brain dump. Just get it all out of your head. You can do this in a notebook. You can do it in your, on your computer, in a Google Doc. One thing that I just started using is voice notes. So you can do a voice note on your phone, or you can use an app like Whisper, kind of voice noting everything that's on your mind, whether it's a task, a to-do, an appointment, a goal, a dream, a wish, an idea, something that you don't want to forget, whatever it is on your mind, brain dumping it out in whatever format is useful for you. The reason that I am testing out doing voice notes is because a lot of times things come to my mind when I'm like out for a walk or walking zoos, and I can just voice note it all and then take that voice note, put it into Claude, and ask it to organize my brain dump for me. So organizing it by things that have action items or deadlines, or things that are to do, or something that's a project that needs to be broken out into tasks, or something that is an appointment I need to schedule. So being able to automate that process a little bit more versus having it all be on me in a manual process is looking to be pretty helpful. So I'll keep you guys updated on how that's going, but that's something new that I've been playing with. Now we want to set the quarterly vision. What do we want this whole quarter to look like, feel like? What do we want to accomplish? How do we want to feel at the very end of it? And I mentioned in the beginning that the theme for me this quarter is audacity. And this came to me because I was working through, like I mentioned, my Dream Life workbook, and I just started to feel this sense of urgency. I'm 38, I'm going to be 39 in September, and I don't want to keep waiting for my dream life. I don't want to work on it slowly over the next few years. Like, I freaking want it now. Like, I want it right now. So I am just going to give it my absolute all. I'm going to do everything possible in my power, in my control, to do what I need to do to make it happen as much as I can. So once you set your vision, then you can set your goals. I recommend having no more than like 3 to 5 goals for the quarter, because even 5 is like a lot to work on in 3 months, but it kind of depends on what they are. So, if you're newer to this type of planning, I would suggest maybe 3 or even 1 or 2. It depends on what it is and, how much time you have outside of your work or whatever to be able to dedicate to it. So just kind of think through that. But we're not stopping with just a goal, because just writing a goal is like a nice happy wish. If we want to actually make it happen, we need to create an action plan around it. So taking that goal and breaking it out into an action plan, which includes monthly milestones, weekly actions, and then your daily habits. what needs to happen at each layer of that, what needs to happen every month, what needs to happen every week, what needs to happen every day in order for you to achieve the goal at the end. And some goals might be an outcome based goal. For example, one of my goals is to hit 10K in revenue in my business. I don't have like immediate direct impact on the outcome of that, but I have control over the things that can lead up to that, like my content that I'm putting out, the offers that I have, how often I'm pitching it, launching, all of those things contribute to the outcome that I'm looking for. So I need to make sure that I'm focusing on the actions that I have control over, not just the goal and hoping it happens. Same thing if your goal is to lose 10 pounds. You can't just lose 10 pounds by hoping that you lose 10 pounds. You need to focus on the workouts, the walking, the meals that you're eating, the sleep that you're getting. Those are the factors that you have control over that are going to contribute to achieving that outcome. The next two things are kind of just more for fun, but I feel like they definitely give you like anchors to help you to lock in and to have a little bit more excitement towards achieving your goals, especially as the weeks go on. And sometimes, life gets in the way and you start to feel like, ugh, do I want to keep going? I want to take a break, whatever it is. Creating a word or a theme for your quarter, like I said, mine is Audacity. So anytime I start to feel like I want to be a little bit lazy or I'm just too tired to do what I need to do, I can remind myself, this is a quarter that I am being audacious and hitting my goals, and remind myself of my why I want to achieve these goals. It's not just so I can like make some money, but my deeper why is like, I want to be able to provide an amazing life for my family. I want to pay off my parents' mortgage so they don't have to worry and keep working for the rest of their lives. Like there's so many things that I want to do to help the people that I love and the community that I'm in. And if I don't have the resources to do that, then I can't do that. And then next is creating a vision board for your quarter. So I know I've seen so many TikToks about this, like creating a vision board for the quarter or for the season. And I feel like that's just such a fun way to visually represent what you want to achieve or the vibes that you want to have and the energy that you want to bring to it. And I think it can just be a really fun visual way to represent your goals. This next section you can cut out if it's not applicable to you, but it's based around business and content. So this is like planning out content themes, launches, promotions, product offerings, all of that I want to look at from a quarterly basis and plan out when things are happening. I'm also setting revenue goals by income stream. So whether that is social media, brand deals, my actual business products, or whatever opportunities come my way, I'm very, very grateful that I get to have any type of income from any of those. So mapping it out just helps me to see where the opportunities are, where I can kind of put my focus and my energy. On the personal side, I want to think about what skills do I want to improve or develop. I plan out any travel trips that I have or personal things that I need to add to my calendar. I also look at birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, making sure all of that is on my calendar so that I can see it ahead of time. And I also like to set my training focus for the quarter, so that makes it a little bit easier as I'm planning month to month what my training is going to look like. And then finally, I like to make sure that I plan a fun trip, whether it's a longer trip or like an extended weekend, whatever it is, making sure that we take time to enjoy and like have time away and go on a trip, make memories. I feel like that's so important. And I've seen people talk about this where, instead of waiting all year for like a 1 week trip, going on a bunch of smaller trips throughout the year. And I feel like that feels so much more fun to pause everything and just relax and like have fun and do something that is totally different, totally out of your element. I feel like that's so important to have in life. So trying to ensure that we have that scheduled out on our calendar. Okay, now for the two very brand new things that I have implemented for Q3 to add a little bit of an element of fun and then also to just have like better track record, better keeping track of like what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. The first thing that I've added is a journal. This is my Q3 notebook, and basically every day I am just writing down all the things that I did to work towards my goals, and then kind of just little notes on like maybe a small win that happened or how I'm feeling. I think it'll be really fun to kind of reflect back at the end of this quarter and see everything that I was doing, everything that I was thinking, and just kind of reflect back on how I achieved everything that I'm going to achieve at the end of this quarter. And then the second thing is my 90-day sticky notes wall. So I'll put a picture here. I have seen so many people do this for like 75 hard and like a bunch of other challenges. And I just thought it'd be such a fun visual way. It's like right across from my desk and I can just see it to every day remind myself like I have 88 days left. I have 87 days left. I have 30 days left to make my goals happen. I feel like it's going to give me that urgency and I just feel like it's a fun way to keep track of everything as well. So my big audacious goals for Q3 are number one, to grow my YouTube to 10K subscribers. I never even thought this was going to be an inkling of possibility at the beginning of the year, but you guys have given me so much hope and like so much excitement for continuing to grow this channel. So I feel like we can make it happen. Maybe that's a stretch for this month or this quarter, but like I said, audacious. The next goal that I have is to grow 10K of revenue in my business. I have a couple of different income streams that contribute to that. So I'm really excited to work towards that goal. Goal number 3 is we are launching our brand new offer for Heirloom, and I don't have a specific number of agents that we want to enroll in that. I'm still working on that with my co-founder, but we're going to set a really big, hairy, audacious goal for that as well. And then goal number 4 is to pay off a sizable chunk of our credit card debt. I'm going to be going more into detail on all these goals in my Substack and like going behind the numbers and everything. So if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to connect with me there. I will also kind of talk a little bit more about this in an upcoming finance review video that I'm doing. So if that's something you're interested in, I will show you how we're working on that. And then goal number 5, which I'm going to say it's like more of a 4.5, is to optimize my health. So just continuing to ensure that I am, taking care of my health in the best possible way. I'm still, like I mentioned a few videos ago, dealing with the residual health side effects of the mold poisoning that I went through. So continuing to just make sure that I am taking care of myself, with nutrition, with movement. I'm getting blood work done soon so that I can just see where all my numbers stand. So it's not like a big or like a tangible numeric goal to hit, just something that is more of like a maintenance, ongoing, continuing to keep that a priority. If you haven't yet, make sure that you download the free quarterly planner in the description. It's just a workbook that's going to walk you through everything that we talked about in this video step by step. And as you're going through this workbook or going through your own planning session, you can either, set aside a couple of hours on the weekend, or you can spread it out over a few days. Don't feel like you have to do everything all in one chunk. I like to do my review portion, take a little break, come back for the closeout, take a little break, come back for planning, or do the planning on a separate day. I feel like it's two different mind spaces that you need to be in for those things. So don't be afraid to spread it out a little bit. And then drop in the comments what your goal is or what your goals are for Q3. I would love to hear it and just kind of cheer each other on and help each other stay motivated and accountable to achieving them, because I feel like when you have community and you have people that have your back and are excited to see you win, it can make the world of difference. So I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and I will see you next week. Bye.